Psychology of married men who don't watch football. Everyone talks about football for hours. They discuss players, teams, moves as if that would really change something. But there you have it. The guy who doesn't watch. And you've heard this. Dude, how come you don't like football? But what if not watching said more about his psychology than about the game? See, not watching football is not about being different. It's about where your focus goes and what your mind really values. Psychologists call this value dissonance, when society takes pleasure in something that your brain simply doesn't respond to. And this is not rebellion. It's self-awareness. Because married men who don't watch football usually fit into specific types, and each type reveals something powerful about how their minds work. While everyone else is screaming at a goal, you think, why should I care about people I don't even know? This is not coldness. It's just that your brain isn't wired for vicarious emotion. You look for dopamine in real progress, not in spectacle. 1. The man who doesn't feel through others. Your brain works differently. While most can feel strong emotion watching other people play ball, you just don't feel anything. It's not that you think it's bad. It's just that it doesn't ignite anything inside you. And this has a name in psychology. Low vicarious emotional response. It means that you can't be moved by the achievements of strangers on TV. Think with me. When a player scores a goal, millions of people jump, scream, hug strangers in the bar. They feel like they've scored that goal. But you? You see a guy kicking a ball into a goal and you think, oh, cool, but so what? It has no emotional connection. Your brain needs direct involvement to release dopamine. It needs to feel like you did something, not that someone on the screen did. It doesn't mean you're cold or emotionless. Quite the opposite. It means that your emotions are directed towards things that you control, that you build, that you really live. If you learn a new skill, your brain explodes with satisfaction. If you solve a problem at work, you feel that good feeling. If you spend quality time with your wife, it really fulfills you. But seeing 22 guys running after a ball? Nothing. And here's the crucial point. You don't need external validation to feel like your life has value. Most people watch football because they feel part of something bigger. They wear the team's jersey and feel like they belong to a tribe. When the team wins, they win. When the team loses, they suffer. It's an emotional roller coaster that feels like you're alive. But you already feel alive without needing it. Carl Jung talked about the difference between living through external symbols and living through direct experience. Most people project their need for achievement onto football teams. They are not achieving anything in their own lives, so they live the achievements through the players. It is a psychological substitute. But you go straight to the source. You want to build your own achievements, not watch those of others. There is another important detail here. You probably have a much stronger sense of self than average. You don't need a team to tell you who you are. You don't need a shirt, an anthem, a mascot. You know who you are without these symbolic crutches. And that scares people, because most depend on these things to form identity. When you say you don't watch football, it's as if you were saying, I don't need what you need. And that bothers us. Now there is a complicated side to all this. Because you don't share this collective emotion, you sometimes feel isolated. On Monday, everyone at work talks about the game. You stay there, kind of outside. It's not that you want to join the conversation. It's that you realize that you're on a different frequency. And that's okay, because you would rather be on a different and authentic frequency 1,000 times than feign enthusiasm for something that doesn't move you. 2. Marriage and the end of male performance. When you get married, something changes. You stop pretending. Stop doing things just because men have to. And football is one of the greatest male performances that exists. Before you got married, you might even watch a few games, not because he liked it, but because it was what was expected. You went to the bar with friends, feigned excitement, commented on the thing, all performance. But after you get married, especially when you're in a real marriage, that mask falls off. You realize that you don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Your wife really knows you. She knows what you like, what you don't like, who you are when no one is looking. So why keep pretending? Why spend 3 hours every Sunday doing something that doesn't interest you just to keep an image? Jung called this the integration of the shadow. You finally accept the parts of you that don't fit the expected pattern. And one of those parts is, you don't care about football. Ready. Took. And when you assume this within a marriage, something interesting happens. You begin to live more honestly in all areas. Because if you can be honest about not liking football, you can be honest about everything. Society sells a very specific idea of what it is to be a married man. The guy has to work. He has to watch football. He has to drink beer with friends. He has to like barbecue. It is a ready-made package. But when you reject a part of that package, you're saying, I choose who I am. And that is liberating. You are no longer trapped in a box of expectations. He is living by his own values. And here's a detail that few people notice. Men who don't watch football often have deeper marriages. Do you know why? Because they invest the time that others spend in the stadium or in front of the TV in real connection. They talk to their wives. They do things together. They build real intimacy. While the guy is yelling at the television, you're having a meaningful conversation. While he's stressed because the team lost, you're calm enjoying the afternoon. This does not mean that every man who watches football has a bad marriage. That's not it. But it does mean that you have chosen to use your time differently. And in marriage, timing is everything. It is the most precious resource you have. Every hour you spend on something is an hour you don't spend on something else. So when you look at football and think, it's not worth my time, you're making a conscious choice about what really matters. There's another layer to it. When you don't need the approval of other men, you become more present in marriage. You're not looking for validation out there. You don't need to prove that you are a real man to your friends. You already know who you are, and your wife knows who you are. This creates a solid foundation. A relationship where you both can be authentic without fear of judgment. And look how curious. Women generally respect more men who don't follow the herd. Not because they hate football, but because they realize the inner strength needed to say no when everyone else says yes. This shows character. It shows that you think for yourself. And in a marriage, having someone who thinks for themselves is much more valuable than having someone who just does what everyone else does. If you want to understand why some men disconnect from the crowd and what that says about your own emotional patterns, discover the Jung Method in the link pinned in the first comment. 3. When time is worth more than the tribe. You understand something that most don't understand. Time doesn't come back. Every Sunday that passes is one less Sunday in your life. And you look at football and do the math. 3 hours per game, 2 games per weekend, 12 hours a month, 144 hours a year. That's 6 whole days a year sitting in front of a screen watching people you don't know playing ball. Now think about what you can do with 6 days. You can learn something new. You can build a project. You can travel. You can spend quality time with the one you love. You can develop a skill. You can just rest for real. But if you spend that time on football, you trade real progress for passive entertainment. And your brain has already figured out that this exchange is not worth it. People talk a lot about belonging, about being part of the tribe. And football makes it easy. You wear a shirt and automatically have millions of brothers. Go to the bar and everyone who supports the same team is your friend. It feels like a connection. But it is not. It is an illusion of connection. Because on Monday, when you really need help, those bar people won't be there. That sense of belonging was only superficial. You have already noticed this. He realized that true belonging does not come from cheering for the same team. It comes from building real relationships. It comes from being present. It comes from investing time in specific people, not anonymous masses. So you choose to spend your time with your wife, with your children if you have any, with true friends who really know you. This is the tribe that matters, and it doesn't need a stadium. Jung talked about the danger of living in mass psychology. When you're part of a screaming crowd in a stadium, you lose your individuality temporarily. You merge with the collective. And this can even be pleasurable for some people. But for you, this is a waste of time and identity. You prefer to keep your individual consciousness intact. You prefer to know exactly who you are at each moment, not to dissolve into an emotional mass. And there is the practical side as well. You look at the guys who live for football and see how much it consumes. They plan the weekend around the game. They get in a bad mood when the team loses. They spend money on tickets, shirts, channel subscriptions. They fight with the family because the game is more important. You see this and think, what is the real cost of this fun? And you decide that the cost is too high, so you make different choices. You wake up on Sunday and think, what do I want to do today? No. What time is the game? You have autonomy over your time, and this is rare. Most people surrender their autonomy to routines they didn't even choose. They watch football because they have always watched it, because the father watched, because friends watch. But you broke that cycle. You've decided that your time is yours, and you choose how to use it. And you know what's most interesting? You're probably more productive than average. Because while others are mesmerized by 90 minutes of ball rolling, you're building something. It can be a personal project. It could be your career. It could be your health. It could be your relationships. But it is something tangible. Something that, when you look back, you see, I used my time well. And this feeling is worth infinitely more than any championship. 4. The mind that chooses its own battles. Your brain works like this, it selects what deserves attention. And football simply does not pass the filter. It's not about snobbery, it's about mental economy. You have a limited amount of mental energy every day, and you'd rather spend that energy on things that really matter to you. Football is not on that list. Simple as that. Think about how many things vie for your attention these days. Work, family, health, finances, personal development, problems to solve, decisions to make. It's a lot. So your brain has developed a system. It decides what goes in and what stays out. And football is left out because it doesn't add anything to what you're building in life. It's pure entertainment with no return. That doesn't mean you don't have fun. It means that your fun comes from different places. Maybe you like to read, or to learn new things, or to exercise, or watching series that make you think, or simply to be silent and do nothing. Each person has their own way of relaxing, and yours doesn't include 22 guys running after a ball. Jung said that individuation is the process of becoming who you really are, not who others expect you to be. And choosing your own battles is part of that process. You are not fighting the battles that society has chosen for you. You're fighting yours. And football, it's not one of his battles. You have more important things to do. There are people who think this is arrogant. Oh, so you think you're better than us because you don't watch football? That's not it. You don't think you're better. You just recognize that each person has their interests, and yours are different. You don't judge who likes football. You only ask for the same respect, that they don't judge you for not liking it. But people don't always give this respect. Because for them, not liking football is almost a betrayal of masculinity. And then you learn another important thing. You don't have to justify yourself. When someone asks, "But why don't you like football?" you don't need to give an elaborate explanation. You can just say, "It's not my thing." And that's it. You don't owe satisfaction about your taste to anyone. That's one of the best things about being a married adult. You finally understand that you don't have to please everyone. Another thing, your brain is always prioritizing. He asks, "Does this get me where I want to go?" If the answer is no, he dismisses it. And football doesn't get you anywhere. It does not improve your health. It does not increase your income. It doesn't strengthen your marriage. It doesn't teach you anything useful. It's just a hobby. And you've reached a point in life where pure pastime no longer satisfies you. You want your time to have purpose. This puts you in a strange position socially. You're at a barbecue. Everyone talking about the game, and you're there a little lost. You try to follow the conversation, but you have no way to contribute. And that's okay, because you know that in other conversations you shine. Conversations about things you really understand and care about. Football is not the only subject in the world. And if the people around you only talk about it, you may need to find people with interests that are more similar to yours. And at the end of the day, choosing your battles is about self-knowledge. You know your limits. He knows his priorities. He knows his values. And you live according to them, not according to what the group expects. This requires courage, because it's much easier to just do what everyone else does. But you chose the hardest path, the path of authenticity, and that makes all the difference. 5. Building meaning. Away from the stadium. You look for meaning in different places. While others find excitement and purpose in cheering on a team, you build meaning through your own actions. You want to look at your life and see real achievements, not victories borrowed from athletes who don't even know you exist. This search for authentic meaning is what separates you from the mass. Think of it this way: when a team wins a championship, millions of people celebrate as if they had won something. They say, "We won," but they didn't gain anything. They just watched. The work was all the players. The sweat was theirs. The talent was theirs. The achievement was theirs. But somehow, people appropriate this victory, and you look at it and think, "I want my own wins." That doesn't make you superior. It makes you different. You have a psychological need to be the author of your own story, not a spectator of the story of others. Jung called this the search for the true self. You don't want to live through projections and identifications with external idols. You want to live your own journey, with your own challenges and your own achievements. And do you know where you construct this meaning? In the little things of everyday life. In your work, when you solve a difficult problem. In your marriage, when you have a deep connection with your wife. In your hobbies, when you develop a skill. In your health, when you take care of yourself and see results. These things give you a sense of accomplishment that no goal on TV could give. The problem is that society values football more than these personal achievements. No one will stop you on the street to celebrate that you have improved your marriage. No one is going to party because you've learned something new. But when the team wins, the city stops. And you see this and you realize how the priorities are reversed. People celebrate the superficial and ignore the deep. But you don't get carried away by that. You keep building your meaning your way. You know that at the end of life, what will matter is not how many games you watched or how many titles your team won. What will matter is, did you really live? Were you authentic? Did you build something worthwhile? Did you love it well? Were you present? These are the questions that matter. And there's something liberating about all of this. When you don't depend on external factors to find meaning, you are much more emotionally stable. Their mood does not depend on whether the team won or lost. Their self-esteem is not linked to the performance of athletes. You have a solid inner center, and it gives you a peace that most people will never have. Now, constructing meaning alone is more difficult. When you are part of a crowd, the meaning comes ready. You just need to show up and shout. But when you choose your own path, you have to figure out what really matters to you. You have to make choices. You have to take responsibility. And a lot of people don't want that. He prefers the ease of going with the flow. But you're not that person. You want something deeper. You want to look in the mirror and recognize who you see. You want your life to have clear authorship. You, not the others, not society, not expectations. You. And that means saying no to a lot of things, including football. Because you understand that every yes to something superficial is a no to something meaningful. And in marriage, this becomes even clearer. You realize that the time you spend with your wife building a life together is worth infinitely more than any game. Every conversation, every moment shared, every challenge overcome together, that's what creates real meaning. Not team trophies, no goals on TV, but true human connection, growth together, love built day after day. 6. The psychological price of not belonging. Now let's talk about the hard side, because not watching football has a cost. You are left out of a lot. Monday at work, everyone talks about the game and you have nothing to contribute. Barbecues become tactical analysis sessions and you just stay there eating. WhatsApp groups explode with memes and comments and you only observe without understanding half of the references. That weighs heavily. Being different hurts. As much as you are comfortable with your choices, there are times when you feel isolated. You see guys laughing together, creating shared memories, and you're not part of it. It's not that you want to be a part of it. But still, there's a recognition that you're on a separate island. And sometimes, even if it's the right island for you, it still gives you that twinge of loneliness. And there's another tricky aspect. Sometimes you doubt yourself. You think, is there something wrong with me? Everyone likes it. Why can't I like it? You wonder if you're missing something important. If you are being stubborn just for the sake of it, you should at least try to force yourself to like it just to make your social life easier. These thoughts appear, especially when you are in a large group where you are the only one who does not watch. But here's the truth. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have a different mental setup, and that's okay. The problem is not that you don't like football. The problem is a society that demands conformity, which says that all men have to like the same things. That punishes difference with social exclusion. But this is society's problem, not yours. Now there are strategies to deal with it. First, find your own tribe. People with interests similar to yours. It can be a reading group. It could be people from the academy. It could be coworkers who also don't care about football. It can be online. The important thing is to have at least some people who understand you, that they don't think you're weird for being who you are. Second strategy, develop other points of connection. You may not talk about football, but you can talk about other things. Be a good listener. Ask questions. Show genuine interest in people, even when the subject doesn't interest you. You can connect with people through other channels. Football is not the only way to male friendship, although it seems like it sometimes. Third, accept that you're going to miss out on some social opportunities. And that's okay. You don't have to be everywhere. It doesn't have to be part of every conversation. It's better to be truly present in a few connections than to be superficially present in many. Quality over quantity always. And there is one last important point here. The price of belonging would be higher. If you pretended to like football just to fit in, you would pay a much higher psychological price. You would have to wear a mask all the time. I would have to feign excitement. You would have to spend time on something that doesn't nourish you. He would have to betray his own essence. And this price is too high. So, yes, not belonging hurts sometimes, but it's an honest pain. It is the pain of being authentic in a world that asks for conformity. And this pain is preferable to the pain of living a lie. Because the pain of being different is acute, but fleeting. The pain of being false is deaf but constant. And you chose the first one. 7. Real intimacy versus artificial connection. Here's something few realize. Football creates an illusion of connection. Two guys who have never seen each other in their lives sit side by side in a bar, cheer for the same team, and suddenly hug each other when a goal comes. It feels like intimacy. It looks like friendship, but it's not. It's just temporary shared emotion. As soon as the game is over, they go back to being strangers. You already understood this a long time ago. Real intimacy is something else. It's getting to know someone for real. To know what the person thinks, feels, dreams, fears. It is to be present in difficult moments, not only in moments of celebration. It is building history together over time. And that doesn't happen by shouting in a stadium. It happens in real conversations, in moments of vulnerability, in shared experiences that go beyond the superficial. You've realized that you'd rather have 3 real friends than 50 bar acquaintances. He prefers to invest deeply in a few relationships than to invest superficially in many. And football is the realm of the superficial. It's easy. You don't have to open up. You don't have to be vulnerable. It doesn't have to show who you really are. You just need to cheer for the right team and that's it, you're connected. But you want more than that. In marriage, then, this becomes even clearer. You have real intimacy with your wife. You know each other in the details. They know each other's tastes, the manias, the fears, the dreams. They built a life together brick by brick. And you look at that deep connection, and then you look at the crowd screaming together at a game and you think, this doesn't even come close to what I have. And that's why you'd rather spend Sunday with her than at the stadium. Because 3 hours talking, laughing, planning, dreaming together is infinitely worth more than 3 hours yelling at strangers. You understand the difference between being accompanied and being truly connected, and you always choose the second option. There is another important detail. Artificial connections are replaceable. If you move to another city, those bar friends will find someone else to sit in your place. Because the friendship wasn't with you. It was with anyone who supported the same team. But his real connections? These go with you. Your wife will go with you. Your true friends go with you, even if it's just over the phone. And that gives you an emotional security that most don't have. You don't depend on collective rituals to feel connected. You have solid connections that exist regardless of games, titles, results. You can lose everything and still have these people. Because the bond is real, not circumstantial. Now, building real intimacy takes work. It's easier to just go to the bar every Sunday and feel that collective emotion. You don't have to try too hard. You don't have to be vulnerable. You don't need to invest time and emotional energy. But you don't want the easy. You want the real. Even if it's more work. Even if it demands more from you. Because you know that in the end, that's what it's worth. And in your marriage, that translates into something powerful. Total presence. When you're with your wife, you're really there. He is not thinking about the game he is losing. He is not keeping an eye on his cell phone seeing the results. It is present body and soul. And she feels it. She knows that you have chosen to be there with her. And this creates a level of intimacy that couples who live divided between family and football will never have.